Is it correct that you project over 2 million illegal immigrants in 2021, calendar year 2021?
I believe that is correct, Senator, and over the last 3 months, we've seen a drop in the numbers by reason.
And how many children do you project in 2021?
I'm sorry?
How many children will have crossed illegally in 2021?
I believe that thus far, through October 31st, Senator, approximately 125,000 unaccompanied children have been transferred to the shelter and care of Health and Human Services.
Now, you told another senator you don't know how many gotaways there have been?
I will have to circle back, Senator, with that information. Yes.
So that wasn't a fact that you thought was relevant to this hearing?
Oh, it is absolutely relevant. I understand why the question is posed. It's a fact of great...
Okay, but you're not prepared to answer it. How about this? How many deaths, how many illegal aliens have died crossing illegally into the United States under Joe Biden's administration?
I don't have that data.
So the deaths, you didn't prepare that data either. All right, how about this? How many children have been in the Biden cages in calendar year 2021?
Senator, I respectfully disagree with your use of the term cages.
Fine, you can disagree with it. How many children have been in the Biden cages? I've been to the Biden cages. I've seen the Biden cages. How many children have you detained at the Donna Tent facility in the cages you built to hold kids? How many children have been in those cages?
Senator, I can provide to you the following figure that when, and let me say that when a child...
It's a simple question. How many children have been in those cages?
I respectfully am not familiar with the term cages and to what you are referring. There are
enclosures in which they are locked in which I took photographs and put them out because you blocked the press and didn't want people to see the Biden cages. These secure facilities in which they are locked down in Donna, those facilities, how many children have been in them?
Senator, there are three types of facilities. There's
the Donna Tent cages, the Donna Tent City. Let's take the Donna facility. How many children have been there?
That is a soft-sided facility. It is not a...
Okay, are you going to answer the question? How many children have been in that facility?
I will have to circle back with you with a precise number.
Oh, by the way, here's a photograph of the Biden cages.
That, Senator, that is precisely why I articulated...
Children sleeping on floors, crashed in upon each other. When I took this photograph, the rate of COVID positivity was over 10%.
May I speak, Senator?
You can answer the question. How many kids have been in these conditions?
That is precisely why I stated in March of this year that a Border Patrol station is no place for a child, number one.
Okay, but
number two,
all right,
that is
Secretary Mayorkas, you're not answering my question, so let me ask you this. In the past year, has Joe Biden been down to see firsthand the Biden cages?
Senator, I will again...
Has Joe Biden been down to see this facility? Yes or no?
The president has not been down to the...
Okay, no. Has Kamala Harris been down to see the Biden cages, this facility? Yes or no?
The vice president was at the border.
Has she been down to see this facility? I know she went to El Paso. Has she seen the Biden cages?
They are not cages. And...
what are these walls?
Senator,
has Kamala Harris seen them? Yes or no?
Senator,
it's a simple question. Yes or no? We don't need a paragraph. Yes or no? Has Kamala Harris been down to see these detention facilities?
She has not been down.
Okay. Has any Democratic senator on this committee been down to see the Biden cages?
I will once again disagree with your use of terminology.
These facilities, has any Democratic member of this committee given a damn enough to see the children being locked up by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because of your failed immigration policies?
Senator, I cannot speak to the members of this committee.
You don't know if any Democrats have been down there?
I believe Democrats have been down
to see this facility, yes or no?
On a facility. Whether they are members of this committee, I do not know. And
all right, let me ask you a different question then.
That what we
how many women have been sexually assaulted being trafficked into this country in 2021?
Senator, I have no ability to determine how many...
Okay, you don't know, so you didn't try to find out?
Have been sexually assaulted in Mexico along the migratory...
All right, how about this? How many children have been sexually assaulted by traffickers or other people when they were coming in illegally?
I do not have that data.
Okay, so you don't know that either. Let me ask you this. How many illegal immigrants have you released into the United States who were COVID positive?
Senator, it is our policy to test individuals.
I didn't ask your policy. How many illegal aliens have you released who are COVID positive?
Well, let me just say, when they are released, they are placed in immigration.
How many have you released that were COVID positive?
I will have to get that number.
Okay, you don't have that answer either. All right, let's try this. How many illegal aliens have you released who had criminal convictions?
Who have criminal convictions in Mexico? In the
Criminal convictions in whatever jurisdiction.
Those individuals, if they pose a public safety threat.
How many individuals with criminal convictions have you released?
Senator, I do not have that.
Okay,
number.
let's specify it more narrowly. How many murderers have you released?
I'm not aware of any murderers whom.
How many rapists have you released?
I'm not aware of any rapists whom.
How many child molesters have you released?
I am not aware of any child molesters whom we have released into the United States, and I should say that
Senior Customs and Border Patrol leadership have told me that your agency is slow walking and refusing to comply with the order from the federal court to return to the Remain in Mexico policy. What would you say to the judge if the judge was asking why you should not be held in contempt and incarcerated?
What they're doing, or even who they are. So far this fiscal year, they have reported encountering 66 illegal aliens between ports of entry on the southwest border who are listed on the terrorist screening database. By the way, that is more than double the total of 26 encountered in the previous 5 years combined. Let me repeat that. They've encountered more terrorists on our southern border in the last year, in fact, twice as many more in the last year as they've encountered in the previous 5 years combined. You know, we asked Secretary Mayorkas if he had released any of the terrorists who were encountered crossing the border illegally this fiscal year into the United States. He sat right at the witness table before us in this committee room and couldn't give us an answer. I want you to think about that. The Secretary of Homeland Security won't tell us whether the agency that he leads has deliberately released terrorists into our country. Aside from those that we've encountered, there is no doubt that aliens listed in the terrorist screening database have crossed illegally into the United States as part of the nearly 1 million known gotaways along the southwest border since President Biden took office. Now, the unconditional surrender of Afghanistan to the Taliban by this administration resulted in the release of more than 5,000 of the most dangerous terrorists on the planet that we were holding at Bagram Air Force Base. We know what happened to one of those 5,000 plus terrorists. One of those terrorists detonated the bomb 10 days later that killed 13 U.S. Marines at Kabul airport. We don't know where the other 5,000 are. But I think it's a pretty good bet that more than a few of them have made their way into our country through our open southern border, and we need to know. If these terrorists, unleashed because of the president's policy in Afghanistan, are able to make their way into this country because of the president's immigration policy, I'm afraid that the price paid by innocent Americans will be horrendous. The mass bombings we read about in other countries may soon arrive on our shores, and if they do, responsibility will rest squarely with the president, his administration, and his apologists in both public office and the press. HRES 1241 directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to provide Congress with documents, communications, and other information in his possession regarding illegal aliens who've been encountered by the U.S. government personnel between ports of entry along the southwest border since January 20th, 2021, who are listed on the no-fly list or the terrorist screening database. And if you won't listen to us, I wish you'd listen to others. Nolan Rappaport authored an op-ed piece in The Hill today in which he raises some of these very concerns. And I'd remind you, he was the Democratic consultant on the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. I'm afraid the terror is coming.
And Chairman Durbin asked you whether illegal immigrants who are released under catch and release and given a court date in the future, whether they show up. And you responded, quote, "The great majority do, Mr. Chairman." Secretary Mayorkas, I believe that testimony is false. It is contrary to virtually every public reporting on the matter. For example, I'm looking at a July 27, 2021 story in Axios that describes just 13% of migrants had shown up after catch and release. You know you're under oath and subject to the penalty of perjury. Do you stand by your testimony to this committee that the great majority of illegal aliens released under catch and release show up voluntarily at court proceedings?
Can I give you the data that I have at my disposal,
Sure.
Senator? The percentage of non-citizens who have checked in, who have been compliant with the alternatives to detention, or are within their reporting time frame
That's not the question. How many show up at the court
is
hearing?
65%.
You're giving stats that aren't answering the question. How many show up at the court hearing? The stat that from Axios showed 13%. You're claiming 13% is the great majority.
Well, let me. I'm pulling from the data that I have, Senator, and I will verify the accuracy of the data after my testimony today and report back to you. Because
So if your testimony that the great majority show up for hearing is wrong and false testimony, you will correct it in writing. Let me ask you subsequently.
no, let me.
You won't correct it in writing?
No, I most certainly will, but I need to say something, Senator. And that is that I take my oath.
Fine, you take your oath seriously. My time is limited on that. Let me ask you another question. It's been reported the Biden administration is considering paying illegal immigrants whose families were separated $450,000 apiece. That would mean for a family of four, they would get $1.8 million.
That's not my understanding.
What is your understanding?
My understanding, and it's drawn from news reports because this is not something that the Department of Homeland Security.
You're the defendant in the lawsuits.
Is that it is that amount of money per family, but I may be mistaken.
That is not what has been publicly reported. It is per person. Do you think it is a good idea to pay illegal immigrants 4.5 times what we pay the family of a service member who's killed in combat? And if we pay millions of dollars to illegal immigrants, in your professional judgment, will we get more illegal immigration or less illegal immigration?
Senator, let me say this, that I do not think a mother would travel to the United States in the hands of traffickers so that she can be separated from her 7-year-old daughter for a period of time, the duration of which she has.
Can you answer the question? Those were two yes and no questions.
I do not think that it would be a pull factor.
I said, is it a good idea to pay them the money, and would you get more illegal immigration or less illegal immigration if you give millions of dollars to illegal immigrants?
I cannot.
More or less?
I cannot speak to the advisability of settling the Federal Tort Claims Act in which I am not involved.
But you have no view on whether
Thank
paying
you,
illegal
Senator
immigrants
Cruz.
millions of dollars creates more illegal immigration?
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
Well, can he answer the question?
You asked that question 2 or 3 times.
And he's refused to answer it 2 or 3
And your
times.
time has expired. You've gone long.